In this video, we're going to model subtype relationships in Microsoft Access. We're starting with a scenario for students in a college. We have the student entity or the student table, as this will become. I did not include data types for everything. Really, the only thing we care about truly in this example, or the most pertinent thing, is the primary key. So I did include data types for that, but this is an incomplete model. So anyway, we have the student entity, and this every student at the university is going to have a student record. And then, of course, we have a student ID, which is a surrogate key in this case, and that is the primary key of the student table. And then just other type of student information, first name, last name, and so on. And the type we can think of as a discriminator field or discriminator column, and the type would be either a graduate or undergraduate student, which leads us to our subtypes. So this is like the main type or the super type, and then these are the subtypes. So we have graduate and undergraduate subtypes, and if you'll notice that, well, first of all, the subtype tables are much smaller. That's because the only thing that is unique to a graduate student is going to be in this table. Whatever's unique to an undergraduate student will be in this table. And I just want to underscore the fact that each square in a subtype relationship, supertype subtype relationship, translates to a table in your database. So this is going to be 3 tables in the database, a bigger one with the information that's common to all students, and then 2 smaller ones. And then a graduate student would have a record in here, certainly not in the undergraduate table, and then the undergraduate student would have a record in here and not in the graduate table. But all students, like I said, are going to have a student record. So if you look at the primary key of the graduate table, it is student ID, okay? And it's of type integer. It's not a surrogate key. It is a foreign key that comes from the student table. So you have the scenario where, these are in a relationship, but they're actually in a one-to-one relationship, and that's what we're going to model in the database. But we have the surrogate key, the primary key of the supertype table is placed as a foreign key in the subtype table, but that foreign key is also made the primary key. So this is an instance of being the primary key and the foreign key at the same time. Okay, same thing for the undergraduate. We have the student ID as the primary key, but it is in fact a foreign key coming from the student table, and it's not an auto number. It's not like an identity column. It's not a surrogate key. It's just a plain integer, like your foreign keys typically are when they're when they're coming from a surrogate key in a parent table. Okay, so that's the model that we're going to create in the database. So I already have the tables created in Microsoft Access, and here we have the student table. There's the primary key. It's a surrogate key. This is how we make a surrogate key in Access. We use auto number. I didn't change anything else. Here we have, all the other columns, first name, last name, and so on. Okay, so that's the student table. Let's look at the graduate table. Okay, we have student ID. Oh, I need to change that. It's just a plain number, not an auto number. Just a plain number when we're talking about the subtype table or the child table. Okay, and then just the GRE score, which is what we care about for graduate students. It's unique to graduate students, so I'll save that. Okay, let's look at the undergraduate. Okay, once again, I need to change this to a plain number. It is the primary key, and it's also going to be a foreign key when we set up the relationship. All right, and then we have the scores that are typical for undergraduate students, ACT, SAT, depending on what the college, what region it's in, basically. Okay, so we have our tables created. We're going to close them up, go to the Database Tools tab, and then open the Relationships window. I'm going to add all 3 tables. I just hold down the Control key on the keyboard and select all 3 tables, and I will add them. Okay, if you want, you can arrange it like your data model. That's not necessary, though. And basically, everything is set up. You know, it's all in setting up the primary keys and the data types. The fact that this is an auto number in the student table, and these are plain numbers in the graduate student and undergraduate tables. So let's set up the relationship. This is going to be a one-to-one, and this is how easy it is. You take the primary key of the parent table or the supertype table, we drag it and drop it onto the subtype primary key. Let's enforce referential integrity. You can cascade updates. These numbers are going to be fixed, though, because they're surrogate keys, so that's really, they're never going to change, so there are going to be no updates. But it's typical to cascade updates, and we'll create. And it's a one-to-one relationship automatically because this is because it's a primary key in the subtype table, it must be unique. So there can only be one value per student in this table. So it's just an automatic one-to-one in that case. And then let's do the same for the undergraduates. And there you have it. So when you're doing NutriCenter, you'll have your employee table with the stuff that's common to all employees, and then you'll probably have 2 or 3 subtype tables to represent, you know, the nurses, the nutritionists, and the admin type of workers. And you'll do the exact same thing here. Basically, it'll be like an employee ID instead of a student ID, and just a simple drag and drop, and just making sure all your keys are in place and your data types are correct.